Welcome back to The Life with Browns. The moment Judge Rebecca Hill stepped into the courtroom, time itself seemed to bend and fracture. It was as if the air turned solid, so thick with tension that even the sound of footsteps seemed louder, sharper, like gunshots echoing against stone. Every eye turned forward, every breath was stilled. The trial had begun. On the plaintiff's side, Christine Brown sat perfectly rigid. She didn't blink, she didn't flinch. Her eyes were locked onto the sealed documents stacked in front of her. Folders that weren't just paper and ink, but the weight of her son's memory, his voice, his truth that had been buried too long. Across the aisle, Robyn Brown sat hunched low, her chin pressed into her chest, her lips drawn into a tight, colorless line. She looked smaller than ever before, as if bracing for impact. Beside her, Kody Brown fidgeted restlessly, arms folded tight across his chest. His posture was a shield, his body a fortress, but the faint tremor in his hands betrayed a man waiting for an earthquake he knew was already rumbling beneath his feet. The reporters in the gallery had gone silent, their cameras cocked like weapons waiting for the first shot. Estranged family members filled the benches, whispering under their breath, their words hushed yet slicing through the silence like razors. This wasn't a family gathering. It wasn't a television storyline. This was war, over a son, a brother, a soldier, Garrison. They had come to court to mourn, but instead they were about to be divided beyond repair. Because Garrison, quiet and steady in life, had lived another existence in the shadows. An existence no one had expected. Secrets, documents, a trail of choices that would rip open the Brown family and leave their legacy burning in ashes. And Christine? Christine was the only one who had chosen to bring those secrets into the light. When Judge Hill adjusted her glasses and scanned the docket, her expression carved from stone, the entire room seemed to shrink. The walls themselves seemed to lean in. Christine's hands hovered over the manila folder, the folder she had avoided for weeks. The folder that had broken her heart every time she tried to open it. Garrison's folder. Her fingers curled against it, trembling but resolute. This was no longer about grief. This was about truth. On the defense side, Robyn's lower lip quivered. For just a flicker of a moment, her mask slipped, her vulnerability exposed. But she caught herself, stiffening instantly, her face snapping back into its porcelain composure. Kody's arm wrapped stiffly around the back of her chair, a gesture that looked less like comfort and more like control. In the second row, Mary sat hunched forward, her eyes cast down as though she wished she could melt into the wooden pew beneath her. But Janelle was a firestorm contained in flesh. She leaned forward, unblinking, her eyes aflame with fury and devastation, silently daring the truth to come crashing out. When the courtroom clerk finally read the case aloud, Brown versus Brown, regarding the posthumous estate and alleged hidden financial misconduct, the air nearly cracked. You could feel it, the strain of secrets pressing down so heavily it threatened to split the ceiling in two. And then Christine rose. Her heels clicked against the polished floor, each step like the blast of a gunshot in a war zone. She moved with deliberate calm, but beneath the stillness, her body was thrumming with uncontainable fire. She reached the witness stand, placed her hand against the wood, and lifted her chin. "Your Honor," she began, her voice firm, edged with grief but hardened with determination. "We are here today not only for justice, but for truth. A truth hidden with my son Garrison. A truth I refuse to see. A truth I can no longer ignore." Gasps stirred the room. Robyn inhaled sharply, a sound like she'd been punched in the chest. Kody's jaw locked, his entire frame stiffening. Christine pressed forward, sliding the manila folder toward the evidence clerk. The clerk handled it with the caution of someone passing a lit torch. "This report," Christine said, her voice ringing in the silence, "contains letters, bank statements, and photographs. Together, they reveal that Garrison was being manipulated financially. And worse, that he maintained a second secret bank account. An account that was funded every single month. By someone in this room." The words detonated like a bomb. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Reporters scribbled furiously, cameras clicked like machine gun fire. Robyn froze, her wide eyes darting instantly to Kody, her face contorted with something between confusion and terror, though she scrambled to mask it. Kody, in contrast, forced himself into stillness, his only betrayal the whiteness of his knuckles, clamped tight against the armrest of his chair. Judge Hill raised an eyebrow, her voice calm, cool, cutting through the chaos. "You are alleging," she said slowly, "that within the Brown family itself there existed a financial conduit, hidden from Garrison's estate?" "Yes," Christine replied, her voice unshaking. "And it doesn't end there." The crowd gasped louder now, the tension snapping like an overdrawn bowstring. Someone whispered, "Oh my God," before being silenced with a sharp glance from the bailiff. Christine's eyes locked with the judge as she added, "The documents also contain emails, personal letters, confessions, apologies, and one final note. A note Garrison addressed to someone named Samantha." Every head in the courtroom swiveled toward Robyn, her face drained of color. The name had hit her like a slap. She blinked furiously, swallowing hard, her composure faltering under the weight of it. But she said nothing. Christine did not flinch. She let the silence stretch, let the suspicion coil around the defense table like a snake. Because for the first time in years, the control had shifted. And the Browns, once a family united, were now staring into a truth so sharp it could cut them apart forever. Cut them apart forever. Christine's tone cut through the silence like venom dripping from a blade. Her words weren't shouted, they didn't need to be. They slithered low, sharp, undeniable. "That," she said, her voice trembling with fury she tried so hard to contain, "is only the beginning." The effect was instantaneous. The entire courtroom seemed to hunch in on itself, dozens of bodies compressing into one collective posture of dread. It was as though everyone present instinctively braced themselves, knowing that whatever was coming next would make their own hearts pound, their own breaths shallow. The evidence clerk pressed a button. The next recording began to play. Garrison's voice filled the chamber, the tinny edge of the audio doing nothing to soften the raw honesty of his words. "March 10th, his weary tone echoed. "Dad stopped by today, but we didn't talk about anything real. He just kept telling me to trust Robyn, said she was family now. Said she'd set me up right, that she'd take care of everything. He told me don't complicate things. I don't even know what that means anymore." The audio clicked off. The silence that followed was catastrophic. The wooden benches seemed to tremble. The fluorescent lights seemed to flicker. The air itself felt as if it was vibrating, like a pressure wave had rolled through the room. Robyn snapped up from her chair suddenly, her composure shattering. "I never said that," she cried out, her voice high and strained. "That's not true. He must have misunderstood, or maybe you weren't even at his apartment." Her words ricocheted through the chamber. Christine spun on her, fury uncoiled at last, years of pain erupting from her chest. "You said you hadn't seen him in months," she shouted, her voice breaking, no longer just words but wounds laid bare. "Order!" Judge Hill thundered, her gavel cracking against the bench with such force that it seemed to shake the walls. "Order in this courtroom!" But it was too late. The dam had burst. Robyn collapsed back into her seat, fists clenched so tightly that her knuckles had gone white. She spoke again, softer now, as if arguing with herself, but loud enough for every soul in that courtroom to hear. "I was trying to help him. He didn't know what he wanted." Christine's eyes locked onto her, icy as steel. "He knew exactly what he wanted," she said coldly. "He wanted you to leave him alone." Janelle, who had been silently trembling, suddenly swept tears from her cheeks. She whispered, her voice cracking under the weight of grief. "He told me the same thing. He said he felt hunted." Those words landed like a knife in the room. Robyn whipped around, her eyes wild, her voice breaking into shards. "You too? You really think I—" But the silence that met her was louder than any accusation. No one defended her. No one spoke. The silence roared like a storm. Christine moved again, this time slower, her footsteps deliberate as she approached the evidence table. Her hands trembled slightly as she lifted a second folder. "These," she declared, her voice steady now, "are text messages between Garrison and a woman named Samantha." A collective murmur rippled through the gallery. "We tracked the phone number," Christine continued. "It was a burner. Purchased in Flagstaff. Used for exactly 1 year. Then discarded. But in that single year, they exchanged over 600 messages." The room gasped. "Some of those texts," Christine said, her voice lowering as if even speaking the words poisoned her tongue, "read like the beginnings of a relationship. Others like threats." That one word, threats, spread across the courtroom like venom in water. Judge Hill leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "Are you suggesting this? Samantha was blackmailing him?" Christine hesitated, then nodded. "Or coercing him, or both." The clerk began to read aloud. One text, "You don't get to back out now. They'll know you signed." Another, "Do what she says. It'll be over soon." And the last, the one that left the entire gallery breathless, "And if you disappear, we all burn." Robyn was trembling now. Her lips pressed so tightly together they turned white. She sat rigid, a woman carved from fear. Kody, meanwhile, had not moved. Not a flicker. Not a shift in posture. Not even a blink. His stillness was unbearable because stillness was never neutral. It was either the silence of innocence or the silence of guilt. "Who is she?" Judge Hill demanded. Christine's reply was heavy with regret. "We don't know, not yet. But we believe she's connected to Robyn, or to someone close to her." The defense leapt to its feet, shouting objections, desperate to halt the hemorrhage of suspicion. Christine faltered slightly under the pressure but pressed on, her voice cracking with conviction. But let it be noted, Garrison felt hunted, manipulated, exploited. Judge Hill's expression hardened. "The court will subpoena the carrier records. Continue." Christine's attorney presented the next exhibit. Garrison's financial records, withdrawals, irregular, always in cash, always within a 5-mile radius of Robyn's usual locations. "A pattern," Christine said. "A shadow, a trail. He was paying someone. We don't yet know what for." But it terrified him. And then came the picture. The projector clicked. The screen displayed a grainy black and white security image. Garrison standing next to a car in a dim parking garage, leaning into the window. Inside the car, Robyn. The crowd erupted in gasps. Mary's hands flew to her mouth. Her whisper cut through the commotion like a blade. "You told me you hadn't seen him in a year," she said, her voice trembling. Her eyes locked on Robyn. "You lied to me." Robyn's defenses shattered. Tears broke free at last. "It wasn't what it looked like. I was just—" "Enough," Judge Hill interrupted. "You'll have your chance to testify." Christine's body sagged slightly, her voice turning soft now, almost maternal. "I didn't want this," she whispered. "I wanted to bury my son in peace. But I couldn't live with the questions." She turned then, her gaze slicing straight into Kody. "Especially not with you." Kody blinked. For the first time all trial, he blinked. His lips parted, his voice low, stripped of bravado. "What are you saying?" Christine didn't waver. Her eyes were fire. "I'm saying you knew. You knew something was wrong with him. And you looked the other way?" "That's not true," Kody muttered, hollow and desperate. "Then prove it," Christine snapped back. "Take the stand. Tomorrow." The judge's gavel cracked once more. "Mr. Brown, you will testify." But Christine wasn't done. She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper so venomous it made the entire gallery freeze. "There's something else," she said. "Something I haven't told you yet. Something Garrison said about the night he died." The entire courtroom inhaled as one. And then silence. The kind of silence that feels like the moment before a bomb detonates. Kody's face drained of color. Once the head of a vast plural brood, he looked older now, weaker, his confidence stripped away, his every secret pressing down on him all at once. Christine never broke her gaze as he raised his hand, swore the oath, and lowered himself into the witness chair. The silence that followed his words, "I do," was suffocating. It felt like even the air had abandoned the room. Christine's attorney stepped forward, sharp, controlled, precise. "Mr. Brown," he said, voice steady, "how long has it been since you last saw your son alive?" Kody's lips moved slowly. "Just a week before he passed. We had coffee. I was trying to smooth things over." His eyes fell downward. "And did you talk about money?" "Yes," Kody whispered. He said someone was taking his name. Opening accounts. But he wouldn't tell me who." "And did he mention Robyn?" the lawyer asked, leaning closer, scalpel sharp. Kody blinked. Leaning closer, scalpel sharp. Kody blinked. The air in the courtroom had already turned dense, like the very oxygen had thickened with secrets too heavy to remain unspoken. Kody sat stiff in the witness chair, his jaw locked, the sweat glistening faintly on his temples as the prosecutor's voice sliced through the silence. "No. Did he say anything about being coerced into signing documents, legally?" Kody's response was firmer this time, almost defiant. "No," he repeated, his voice sharper, but the faint tremor in his tone betrayed him. The lawyer's eyes narrowed, studying him the way a hawk studies a faltering rabbit. "But he did tell you he was being followed." The words ignited a wave. Murmurs rippled across the gallery. gasps mingling with frantic pen strokes from journalists, cameras clicking like insects feeding on decay. The lawyer stepped forward. "Mr. Brown, did you pursue that claim? Did you contact authorities, anyone, police, private investigators, to follow up on your son's words?" Kody's eyes fell, his shoulders slumping. His reply barely surfaced. "No, I thought he was overwhelmed. Depressed, maybe." From the gallery, Christine's voice cut through like a whip, shaking with rage. "You didn't believe him!" The judge slammed her gavel. "Order! Miss Brown, control yourself!" But the words were already carved into stone. Christine's fury hung heavy in the air, undeniable. Kody's posture collapsed. His defenses, once towering, began to crumble. The prosecutor's voice shifted, calm, precise, merciless. "Mr. Brown, let's return to a detail you conveniently forgot. Weeks before your son's death, you received an anonymous email, did you not? From an account named Northstar404 at Proton Mail. The subject line read, 'Ask your wife where she was.'" The courtroom froze. Kody's lips quivered. He nodded reluctantly. "Yes. And the attachment?" His voice cracked. I didn't open it." Gasps swelled, a rolling wave of disbelief. "You didn't open it?" The prosecutor's voice rang with disgust. "Why?" Kody's answer was a whisper, broken, trembling. "Because I couldn't take more drama. I deleted it." For a heartbeat, the room felt like it was caving in. The sound of horrified gasps meshed with the pounding of hearts, the shuffling of bodies, as if every soul in the room recognized the gravity of what had just been revealed. Christine rose slowly, her face pale, her eyes blazing. "You deleted the one thing that might have saved him." Kody's head hung low, his voice faint. "Yes. Why?" There was silence. And then 6 words that shattered the courtroom into stunned stillness. "Because I was afraid of knowing." Christine froze, her fury stilled by shock. Janelle's quiet sobs began behind her, raw and unguarded. Mary covered her mouth with shaking hands. Even Robyn, head bowed, wrung her fingers so tightly that her knuckles gleamed bone white. The prosecutor pressed forward, relentless. "So to be absolutely clear, you received an email, possibly from your own son, urging you to question your wife's involvement in his fear, and you deleted it. Correct?" "Yes," Kody breathed. The silence was suffocating. The lawyer's tone sharpened like a scalpel. "Mr. Brown, did you know the woman your son referred to as Samantha?" Kody faltered. His pause dragged on, too long. "No," he said at last, his voice thin. "Are you certain?" Another hesitation. His eyes darted, his breath shallow. "Yes." But his eyes betrayed him, darting toward Robyn. The judge leaned forward, her gaze unflinching. "Mr. Brown, you are sworn in. I advise you to reconsider your answer carefully." Kody's mask fractured. His lips trembled before the words broke free. "There was a friend. From Robyn's church. A woman, she used to run errands, small favors, quiet, kept to herself. I didn't know her well." "And what did she call herself?" The pause stretched on like an eternity. Kody swallowed hard. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Samantha." The name detonated like thunder. Gasps erupted, bodies shifting, pens scraping furiously. Christine shot to her feet, her voice shaking with fury. "You lied!" "You knew all along." Kody's face collapsed, panic rising. "I didn't know she was involved. I thought she was just a friend." Christine's cry shattered the air. "Then why did you delete the email? Why?" Kody bellowed, voice cracking under the weight of truth. "Because I was afraid. Because I knew if I read it, everything would be destroyed." The words hung like smoke in the air, choking everyone who heard them. The room descended into horrified silence. Even the jury appeared stunned, their eyes wide with disbelief, as the vision of a father burying his son's pleas to preserve his own comfort sank like poison into the collective consciousness. Christine moved toward him, trembling, her voice like glass. "You left him there, alone, with a woman you suspected could be dangerous. And you did nothing." Kody said nothing. Tears trembled in his eyes but never fell. He stared only at the floor, hollow, broken. The defense called out desperately, "Redirect!" But nobody listened. The judge finally dismissed him. "Step down, Mr. Brown." Kody rose slowly, walking back to his seat with the gait of a condemned man, a ghost already, stumbling through his own judgment day. The next witness's name cut through the heavy silence. "Mary Brown," gasps again. Mary looked stunned, clutching at her chest. Slowly, uncertainly, she rose. each step toward the stand like walking through mud. Sworn in, she sat with hands folded tight, eyes darting between Christine and Robyn, as though caught between two storms. The lawyer's voice softened. "Mary, did Garrison ever contact you before his death?" Her eyes glistened. Her voice was fragile. "Yes, about a month before." "What did he say?" She hesitated, then whispered. "He said he was afraid. That someone had something on him. That he'd done something wrong. He asked me if I ever felt like the family was being watched." The courtroom held its breath. "And did you?" Mary's gaze shifted toward Robyn. "Sometimes," she said softly. "Did you tell anyone about this conversation?" Her eyes dropped. "No. Why not?" Her voice cracked. "Because no one ever believes me. They think I'm dramatic, emotional, bitter, but I knew. I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know what." The prosecutor leaned closer. "Mary, did you think Robyn was behind Garrison's fear?" The silence was a drumbeat. The gallery leaned in. Mary's breath shook. She looked at Robyn, then at the floor. Finally, she whispered, "I don't know. But she knows more than she's telling." Robyn shot up, her face red, her voice shrieking. "This is a witch hunt. You're all trying to blame me because I'm the last wife standing." The judge thundered. "Sit down. You'll testify tomorrow." But Robyn screamed, tore the air apart. "You think I wanted him to die? I begged Kody to help him. I begged him to talk to Christine." Christine stood, her voice cracking into rage. "You cut him off. You and your church friend. You made him feel hunted, like he was going crazy." Robyn's shriek split the room. "No, you did that. All of you, you left him." The gavel slammed down. "Enough!" Judge Hill roared, the bailiff moving swiftly between them. Robyn collapsed back into her seat, sobbing uncontrollably. The judge's voice was steel. "Tomorrow we hear from Robyn, under oath." As the courtroom emptied, Christine glanced at her phone. A new message. An unknown number. One line. "You're getting too close. Stop digging." Number. One line. "You're getting too close. Stop digging." The air inside the courtroom was thick enough to choke on. Every eye was fixed on Robyn, her shoulders bent forward like a figure carrying centuries of shame. The question had been simple, but its weight was unbearable. "They cautioned him," Christine's attorney repeated, each syllable falling like a stone into a well, "to be vigilant, to think twice before acting. They told him that if he continued in this manner, he would hurt the family." The question that followed was a blade. "Did you threaten him?" Robyn's lips trembled. Her head moved side to side, but her voice betrayed her. "Never, not in so many words." The lawyer leaned forward. "But you let someone else do it, didn't you?" The silence stretched like a funeral procession. Robyn's hands clawed the wooden table until her knuckles turned white. "Yes," she whispered at last. A nauseating hush swept through the room. It wasn't the silence of peace, but the suffocating silence of dread, as though everyone present had inhaled poison and was waiting for it to take hold. Janelle covered her mouth with her hand. Mary's eyes dropped to her lap. Christine stood slowly, her grief a weapon sharper than steel. "May I approach?" she asked, her voice uneven but commanding. The judge nodded once. Christine walked forward, not with the stride of anger, but with the heaviness of a mother carrying her child's final words. From her folder, she drew out a solitary sheet of paper, printed, stained, but still whole. It was an email. "Your Honor," Christine began, her voice breaking as she held the page up for all to see. "This was sent by my son the night before he died. He sent it to himself, as if he needed to leave a breadcrumb trail for us to follow." She began to read. "If anything happens, it's not just about money. It's about power. Family loyalty isn't love, it's control. And I finally see that now." Robyn bent forward, hiding her face in her hands. Kody sat motionless, a wax statue carved from denial. Janelle's tears ran freely, her chest heaving in muffled sobs. Mary stared blankly, as if her soul had slipped out of her body. Christine's voice wavered, but she forced herself to continue. "He wrote one other thing. I hope someone reads this. I hope someone listens. But if not, I'm finally free." The words hung in the courtroom like smoke from a fire that could never be extinguished. Reporters scribbled furiously. A few jurors wiped their eyes. Somewhere in the back, a woman wept openly. The judge leaned forward, her face grave. "Mrs. Brown, did you or did you not financially benefit from Garrison's secret account?" Robyn didn't answer. Her silence thundered louder than any denial. "Yes or no?" Robyn's voice cracked. "Yes, I didn't know at first. But eventually, yes, Christine snapped. You made money off my son's fear. Her scream echoed like a cannon. She lurched forward, restrained only by 2 security officers who rushed to hold her back. You let him suffer while you lined your pockets. I didn't mean to, Robyn wailed, her voice shrill, desperate. I swear to God, I didn't mean to. But you did. Christine's cry tore through the courtroom, raw and guttural. And now he's dead. The room erupted. Gasps, sobs, shouts. The reporters at the back nearly tripped over one another to relay the words to the world. Judge Hill slammed her gavel again and again, her voice rising above the chaos. Order! Order in this courtroom! But order was impossible. Something irreversible had cracked wide open. Finally, the judge declared a recess. This trial will resume tomorrow with expert witness testimony from the forensic accountant who examined the transactions tied to the alias Samantha Fields. We will trace this money trail to its end. The room broke into restless movement. People stood, whispering, gasping, struggling to process what they had just witnessed. Christine remained seated, her hands trembling violently as her phone buzzed in her lap. She glanced down. Another message. This time not text. An audio file. Her thumb pressed play. Garrison's voice filled her ear, shaky, haunted, yet purposeful. They're watching me, even now, but I left crumbs. You just have to know where to find them. Christine froze, transfixed, her eyes locked on nothing. Her lips trembled. He left us more, she whispered. He wanted us to find it. The crowd swarmed out of the courthouse, buzzing with speculation. But Christine barely moved. Her grief had crystallized into resolve. She would not stop. She could not stop. The following morning, rain battered the courthouse steps like a drum of warning. News vans lined the block. Reporters huddled under umbrellas. And through the chaos emerged Robyn Brown, black coat pulled tight, sunglasses hiding swollen eyes, flanked by her attorney and a security escort. She looked less like a wife, less like a mother, and more like a defendant cornered by the weight of a nation's judgment. Inside, the gallery was packed to capacity. Christine sat rigid, jaw clenched, fingers gripping her son's journal. Janelle twisted her wedding band over and over like a rosary. Mary hadn't spoken a word since her own testimony. Kody sat gaunt, hollow-eyed, the shadow of the man he once pretended to be. But all eyes turned as Robyn took the stand. Her oath was barely audible. Mascara streaked down her face before a single question was even asked. The prosecutor's voice was cold, merciless. Mrs. Brown, do you realize the gravity of the testimony you are about to deliver? Robyn nodded, her lips trembling. Yes. Do you know Samantha? The pause was unbearable. Robyn's throat bobbed as she swallowed, and then, yes. The courtroom gasped in unison. Even Judge Hill stiffened, pen frozen above her notepad. Who is she? Robyn's voice broke, the words spilling out like blood. She was a friend from church. She ran errands, helped with the kids, did housework. And then she met Garrison. Through me, things grew complicated. The lawyer's eyes narrowed. Complicated? Define complicated. Robyn sobbed openly now. He trusted her. She listened. She comforted him when no one else would. And then she twisted it. She manipulated him. The air in the courtroom was so charged it could have sparked fire. Christine didn't blink. Janelle's hand covered her mouth. So you confess, the prosecutor pressed. She coerced him. Robyn's head shook violently. I didn't know until it was too late. I swear I didn't know. But you benefited from it, the lawyer shot back. Yes, Robyn whispered. But I thought it was to protect him. To keep him from wasting everything. Christine rose suddenly, eyes blazing. You deceived him. You trapped him. You controlled him like a puppet on strings, and then you called it protection. Robyn sobbed harder, her voice collapsing. He trusted me, and I failed him. The judge's gavel cracked through the storm of emotion, but the words lingered in the air like smoke. Everyone knew it now. The strings of deception were tightening, and the puppeteer was finally being dragged into the light. The moment Samantha Fields opened her mouth, the air in the courtroom grew taut, like a rope pulled to the point of snapping. I was his emotional advisor, she said calmly, her words eerily measured, as though she had rehearsed them 1,000 times in the mirror. The judge leaned forward, her robe falling into sharper folds, eyes narrowing. Tell us, she instructed, her voice like a scalpel, dissecting every syllable. Samantha's tone did not falter. I guide people through dysfunctional families. I provide services quietly for those drowning in responsibility, in agony. The words floated across the room, clinical, detached. But then came the fracture. And yes, I was paid for this. The admission detonated like thunder, punctuated in reality by the heavens outside. A violent clap echoed through the courthouse windows as Robyn collapsed into her hands, weeping without rhythm or restraint. It was no longer performative tears. It was the cracking of a mask too long worn. Her sobs were not just grief. They were confessions without language. The prosecutor's voice cut through like steel. "How much were you paid?" $5,000 a month, Samantha replied evenly. "In installments?" "Through RS Consulting." The gallery gasped. "A number, a proof. A breadcrumb on the money trail." "Did Garrison know?" "Not at first," Samantha admitted. "He thought I was just a family friend. That's how I was introduced." "By whom?" Samantha's gaze did not waver. "By Robyn." The silence that followed was nuclear. Christine shot to her feet, her voice raw. "That's not true. You weren't assisting him, you were controlling him. You weren't guiding him, you were poisoning him with fear." Samantha turned her head, unnervingly calm, her eyes locking with Christine's blazing fury. "You don't realize what he was experiencing." Christine's voice shook the rafters. "I was his mother," she bellowed. "And you poisoned him." The room vibrated, a hive of whispers and sharp intakes of breath. Judge Hill struck her gavel twice, her voice cracking like a whip. "You will respect this court, or I will clear it." The interrogation pressed on. "Miss Fields," the prosecutor continued, "did you know Garrison's state of mind in those final days?" Her reply was almost a whisper. "Yes, and I was afraid." "Why didn't you seek help?" "Because he begged me not to," Samantha said. "He trusted no one. He believed everyone wanted to take advantage of him, to silence him." Christine's face drained of blood, but she remained standing, every muscle rigid. The prosecutor pressed harder. "Did you believe him?" Samantha's answer was ice. "Yes, and I still do." The room gasped. "Then why the threats, Samantha?" Her lips curved into the faintest ghost of a smile. "That's interpretation. I gave him ultimatums, deadlines, because he kept wavering. He'd promised to reveal things, then disappear. I thought pressure might push him, or fear." The gallery hissed, murmurs rippling like wildfire. "Fear of what?" Samantha inhaled. "Of releasing the North Star folder." Time stopped. The very name, North Star, sucked the oxygen out of the room. Everyone knew. The missing piece? The whispered breadcrumb from Garrison's last message. "Where is it?" Christine's voice was low, dangerous. "Gone," Samantha replied. Christine's face twisted. "You're lying." "No, I deleted it from the cloud, but..." She hesitated. The first tremor in her stone facade. "He told me once he made a physical copy. I don't know where." Christine's tone dropped into a growl. "You're going to help us find it. Because if you don't, I swear I will bury you beneath every deception you fed him." Samantha flinched. For the first time, the mask cracked. "There was a storage unit," she whispered. "He said it was near water. His quiet place." Christine's eyes widened. Lakeview Creek. The gavel fell. "Court is adjourned until tomorrow. The Lakeview unit will be investigated." The storm outside unleashed in sheets of rain, pounding against the courthouse glass like fists demanding justice. Christine, Janelle, and the sheriff drove out, headlights slicing through the downpour, every mile heavier than the last. At the rusted blue unit, bolt cutters clanged against the lock until it snapped. Christine's flashlight quivered as she pushed open the door, dust rising like the exhalation of secrets long buried. She sifted through boxes until her hand froze on a duffel bag. Old, worn, inscribed with a single word, North Star. Her knees buckled. She unzipped it with trembling fingers. Inside, spiral notebooks, a thumb drive, forged agreements with Robyn's signature, and a sealed envelope. Her hands shook as she tore it open. "Mom," the letter began, "if you're reading this, I didn't survive. I tried to fight. I loved you, but I couldn't let them own me anymore. Not Dad, not Robyn, not their money. I'm sorry I wasn't stronger, but maybe this truth will be." Christine collapsed to the cold floor of the unit, clutching the bag to her chest, her sobs mixing with the storm's howl outside. The next day, the courtroom overflowed. Reporters, strangers, mourners. The duffel sat like a coffin on the evidence table. As its contents were revealed, emails, journals, recordings, the gallery wept openly. Robyn crumbled, muttering, "I didn't know," over and over, while Christine's ice-cold glare cut her down. "You knew. You just didn't care until it was too late." The jury deliberated. Hours felt like centuries. And when the foreman finally stood, his words fell like judgment from Olympus itself. "We, the jury, find the defendants Robyn Brown and Kody Brown liable for financial misconduct, psychological coercion, and the emotional destruction of Garrison Brown." A civil verdict. No prison yet, but the weight of it was heavier than chains. The judge's gavel fell with finality. This case will be forwarded to the state attorney general for possible criminal investigation. Robyn collapsed. Kody closed his eyes, a single tear tracing down his cheek. Not redemption, but recognition. Christine walked into the storm of flashbulbs outside. She said nothing. She only lifted Garrison's notebook, open to his final entry. "Even if they don't believe me now, maybe someday they will. Maybe the truth will outlive the lie." The cameras zoomed in. The world saw. Justice had spoken, not in punishment, but in revelation. And as the clouds parted, Christine whispered into the silence, "I couldn't save him, but I can fight for him. And I will, until my last breath. And I will, until my last breath."